Well, hello there. Hope you guys are doing well on this fine Tuesday evening. Coming to you live on our weekly Savvy Home Seller Housing Market. What the heck is going on show? We go behind the headlines on whatever the headlines may be this week. And, you guys, those that, tune in every week, I appreciate you guys. And as you know, I try to, we go into the headlines. I try to go behind the headlines to give you clarity so you can go out there and advocate for yourself. And you know what? The negative headlines, there's always a ribbon of positivity in there somewhere. And I'm a very glass half full person. Optimism, cautious optimism. So I always like to try to find that in there whenever possible. But we got some interesting topics tonight. There is a ton of confusion. Like, when is this housing market? Holy smokes! I mean, I've been doing this for going on 30 years. And I mean, the housing market during the great financial crisis, yeah, it was all over the place and all the things and traumatic and whatnot. But this housing market, sometimes I wake up in the morning and go, what the heck's going on? I don't even know. Because it's confliction, all kinds of conflicting reports. You can have literally towns within an hour of each other doing entirely opposite, experiencing opposite housing markets. And that's what we're going to get into today, because it is causing mass confusion. And you may be thinking, like, well, I'm in Florida. That means the entire state of Florida is struggling. Nope, it's not. So we're gonna get into that. But let's see, we got some folks tuning in already. We got Dave. Retirement is underrated. I love that. Love it, love it, love it. How you doing, my friend? We've got. Let's see. This is just sent you a communication looking for a seller agent. Oh, fantastic! I will look into that and get back to you. Appreciate that. We got David looking for a buyer's agent in Jacksonville, Florida. You have someone you recommend? I do have a great agent in Jacksonville. If you haven't already, fill out the request a referral agent link in the description. Can't find my words tonight. It's going to be an interesting live show. But fill that out and I'll get back to you with some more questions and all the things, tell you what the process is. So we got Angie in the house. Don't see a balanced market in my area yet. Yet. What part of California are you? Are you in SoCal? Angie, I forget. I've never met you, never talked to you, but I feel like I know you well. You come every week. I love it. Because there's some different, I've got some interesting information that uncovered this week as some changes happening in certain parts of California. We got Escroft coming in, new welcome. Coming in from Cape Cod, my neck of the woods. I'm in Plymouth, an hour south of Boston, right on the other side of the canal, the Cape Cod Canal, which for those that are local, the Cape is considered another country. Once you go over the bridge, all bets are off. It's a whole new world over there. It's a brave new world. Oh, Angie's in SoCal. Interesting. You might be seeing some changes down there, my friend. So, we got some wiggly arm guy in for the win. My house finally went on the market Saturday. Woohoo! Fantastic. And actually, that is a great segue. Is before we get cranking here, just a couple things. We got some housekeeping items. First off, make sure you check out the poll. I want to know what's going on in your neck of the woods. What are you seeing locally? And if you don't know, that's okay. But I talk to my referral agents all over the country on a daily basis, and it's the stories they're different from every person I talk to. So I'm interested to hear what you guys. So let me know what you're seeing in your neck of the woods on the poll. Also, Wiggly Arm guys already beat me to the punch. Post your wins. Even though the market may be struggling, people are winning. We want to celebrate that stuff. I love it when you guys post, things that you have had success with. Success and positivity, it builds momentum, and it's contagious. It's contagious. The opposite is true as well. But we want to focus on the wins so that we can support you and celebrate that with you. That would be fantastic. And then, of course, every week I always ask you guys to put Q in front of your question, just so I don't miss it in the chat. I'm doing this. I'm a solo show, so I'm going through all the comments in the chat. Want to make sure I get to your question. So okay, tonight rather. 6 p.m. here Eastern time. We're talking about, we got a couple things on the agenda. First, we're going to talk about the divided housing market, as I alluded to in the title and a few minutes ago. There's a lot of different things happening, and came across some research. When I was doing my research, came across an article with a little bit of insight on that I thought was interesting, that I had not heard before. So I want to share that with you. We're also going to get into, I want to talk about the Zillow's revised home price forecast. So, this market is going up, down, the forecast goes up and goes down. And, the market for a lot of folks does not feel good. It's in a lot of areas it's not good, but it doesn't feel good, even though it might be marginally okay. But it'll be interesting. I want to share with you the data that just came down the pipe from Zillow and their data crunchers on what the prediction is for the rest of the year heading into next year. And then finally, we can't ignore the fact that it is government shutdown eve. Tomorrow, tomorrow, it's expected that the government is going to shut down. And what we want to talk about, the most important thing, that really the only thing that I care about on this show, is how does that impact the housing market? How does it impact you guys? If you are thinking about doing anything, if you're thinking about moving in the next month, what does that mean to you? Does it mean nothing? Does it mean something? What should you pay attention to? So I wanted to kind of go over that, and just so that you can have some information, get armed with information, because I always find out that I always feel that whenever I get stressed and unsure about things, I research, information. It brings in the calm. Brings in the calm. So, speaking of research, I wanted to make it just a side comment. I had someone request and I don't remember her first name. I apologize, but she requested a referral earlier today, and she wrote a little note and says, I really appreciate you commenting about and sharing your story about plumbing. And I did dive into the world of ProPress, did some replumbing of my put in a shower valve and a new tub spout, and did some plumbing downstairs, a pinhole leak and all the things. Here's the thing, and I'm going to say this, I want you to be empowered, but when you are doing something like that, one of the things I do is I research the heck out of it, forwards, backwards, how to do it, how not to do it, Number two, I always know what my boundaries are. I know what my limits are. I know what I can and can't do. And number three, always have a backup plan. If I'm doing any kind of project like that, my backup plan, call a plumber, which is why I do my projects on a Sunday. Because you know what? The worst thing you could do is start it on a Friday, and then you're calling those guys and it's time and a half or double time on the weekend. No, Sunday I can wait one day, and Monday is regular time. So strategies. Strategy. All right, let's get this party started for sure. So we're gonna get right into it here. Housing Wire. So Housing Wire came out with this article a couple days ago, and it says the great stay, why the housing market is divided in two. And I glanced at this article and I saw, it's the same old, but it had a different take that I wanted to share with you guys and give you my thoughts. So the author of this article, Mike Simonson, says, I recently gave a talk to a few hundred real estate professionals in Chicago. Started with the map below of the U.S., showing the days on market for pending home sales in different states. It's a stark illustration that the country is divided into two distinct real estate markets. Just to be clear, we're not talking divided politically, we're talking divided with the housing market. Just want to put that out there. We're not talking, we're not talking about the political scene. So, which it might be alluded to with the colors, but anyways, it says the states with the shortest time to sell a home are crowded In the Midwest and Northeast, across the Sun Belt, homes are taking roughly twice as long to sell, 50 days in the Midwest compared to 100 days commonly for the markets in the South. What's going on? The short answer is that we used to move from north to the south. And for the time being, we've stopped moving. And this is true. I remember growing up, I hear it all the time. My friends' parents were, they're getting ready to, grandparents rather. It wasn't me, my parents, my friends' grandparents. They would retire and they'd pack their bags, sell their house, and move to Florida, or one of the Carolinas or Georgia. Like they'd get out of Dodge. They want to get away from the snow. They want to get away from the inclement weather. They want to head south, and that has changed. That has absolutely changed. It says, he says, I've called this phenomenon. I can't help but Sesame Street is like like embedded in my brain. Please, in the chat, tell me, when you hear the word phenomenon, can you not help but think phenomenon? Do, 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 do. Just saying. Anyways, if you cannot laugh during a housing market show, you're in the, you know what? This is the path to more fulfillment, I guess. Anyways, get back on track, Jen. I've called this phenomenon the Great Stay. It says, in the post-pandemic economy, we're staying in town, in state, in our jobs, in our homes. Companies are not firing and they're not hiring. This is true. Workers are not quitting. Growing families are not upsizing. Workers are not migrating across the country in search of better opportunities. It says migration disrupted for many years. Americans have been moving from the north to the south. Just as a side note, if you are watching this on a smaller device, you're having trouble seeing this article, I will post all these links in the description so you can take a look at it after the fact. It says, for many years, Americans have been moving from north to south, from the Rust Belt to the Sun Belt. That migration pattern exploded during the pandemic. Remote work, cheap new housing, and other economic opportunities drew millions of people to states like Texas, Florida, Arizona, and Colorado. For anyone who was thinking about making a move, suddenly the pandemic, it was an optimal time to do so. Then suddenly the move got expensive. The price of homes in the South shot up. Cities like Tampa, where it was quite common to see 45% home price appreciation in just a few years. Mortgages got expensive. When mortgage rates jumped from 2.8% to 7%, payments rose even further. Then there's the insurance costs and the taxes and home goods, and throw in HOA for good measure. It says the Midwest and Northeast aren't nearly as susceptible to natural disasters, and insurance costs have held more steadily. Our insurance costs have gone up. There's no question. It's the way that insurance companies work. Don't take it for don't take my word for it. I actually did a video months ago about home insurance and how insurance works, how the insurance companies, the dynamics of how their policies and how they handle where the money goes. Where does the money go when you pay your policy? And these companies, they look at their profile, their accounting profile as a whole, and if Florida's sucking a lot of revenue out of them, they spread it across all states. Now, that being said, obviously the states that are taking the most revenue, they're going to feel the most increases. No question about it. But we did as well. My insurance rates went through my home insurance went up, and I'm not anywhere near the water. So we are feeling it, but not to the degree. Not to the degree, as those markets that have more inclement weather. It says, as the relative affordability benefit of moving to the south evaporated, we stopped moving. It says jobs too. The Great Stay is not just a housing story. The weak housing market is intertwined with a very unusual labor market. Been talking about this for weeks, and it is true. The labor market is unusual because a lot of it's not making any sense. It says while the unemployment rate is reasonably low, the hiring rate by companies is as sluggish as it would normally be in a deep recession. The country only added 22,000 jobs in August. Because no one is hiring, and I know quite a few friends that are looking for work that are highly qualified, highly qualified, and can't find jobs. Because no one is hiring, those who have jobs don't want to quit. The rate at which employed workers quit their jobs is remarkably low and looks more like a recession than an economy growing at 3%. Notably, the quit rates is lowest in the Northeast, which is also where the days on market illustrated in the map above is the lowest. Interesting. It says this weirdly shows us this weirdly slow jobs market is perhaps the result of the big pandemic levels of hiring. Many companies are fully staffed, and while layoffs aren't dominant, hiring is also unnecessary. I can't help but think, actually, it goes on to say, we're also in the early stages of AI, of the AI impact in the economy. I can't help but think that this is already starting to happen. I watched a YouTube video today during lunch about the most advanced Amazon distribution center in the country down in Louisiana. I think it's Shreveport, Louisiana. I think. Somebody knows. Pop it in the chat. But they are substantially decreasing the amount of time from ordering to delivery. And they're doing it with robots and AI. Now, the thing is, you say, oh, robots are taking the jobs. And basically, the video was about the fact that they haven't fired anyone. They've reallocated and retrained their workers. And I think that's what's going to happen is workers that used to stuff the boxes or go physically go and pick the items. They have robots doing that at a faster rate, more efficient. Now they train them to manage the robots, fix the robots, replace whatever on the technical side, because those need human jobs. So they'll train and then reposition, reallocate that workforce. It's coming, folks. We can't. It is what it is, and whether it's a good thing or bad thing will remain to be seen. But I have to believe that that's impacting the jobs market. It says what the Great Stay means for buyers and sellers. This is what we want to know. What this gentleman's thought is on it. It says the Great Stay means we're not selling homes in the north and not buying in the south. Inventory and days on market are climbing much more quickly in the south. We know this. The north-south divide also shows up in the new construction data. We've been seeing building homes in the south much faster than the north. It's no surprise that inventory piles up where we have all the new construction. It says the Tampa days on market maps is perhaps the most clear illustration of this phenomenon. The Tampa metro market, for example, is up 94 days on average for single family homes, up from just 20 days in September 21. Compare that to Connecticut, on the other hand, is taking only 48 days on average in September, up from 35 during the pandemic. It says the Great Stay is a recent phenomenon. As the housing market emerged from the pandemic booms, different markets slowed at different paces. Here's the thing, guys. It's not just north and south. And I've got a couple articles. I'm going to take a quick sidebar and check out the chat here for a second. But I want to show you that it's not just a north and south issue that we're seeing the divide. It's also within the states themselves, depending on what's happening with certain counties, certain towns. It's very interesting. All right, let's head over to the chat, see what's popping here. Let's see, we've got we have Paul T in the house. My house is under contract in Pennsylvania. Woohoo! Congratulations. Took 2.5 months. Well, you know what? Good on you for being patient. That is fantastic. Angie says the days on market actually decreased here for August. That's in line with what I'm going to show you in a second. Let's see. Average days on market. Teresa Panic Eyes says our average number of days on market in my area is 73. Is there an average for the nation? So, you know what? That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head what the average is for off the top of my head, I don't know that number, Teresa. I'll see if I can dig it up. But 73 is definitely on the higher side, but it's not between 45 and 90 is, to be honest, back in my day, back in the day, when it was more of a heading towards, you never have a balanced market. There's no such thing like it's, a seesaw. Seesaws never, become imbalanced and stay there. It's always going to teeter one way or another. But when you're in the middle, 45 to 90 days is not crazy. 45 days is not crazy. So 45, 45 to 60 days. So you might be a little higher. That sounds a little higher, but um we'll get back to you on that. Let's see here. Chuck says, should I sell my home in the winter or wait? Chuck, it depends on your area. It depends. I don't want to say, I don't want you to think I'm sidestepping the question. I don't have an answer for you. Why? Because I don't have all the data. I don't have all your information. I would need to know your market, number one. Number two, I need to know your personal situation, which is probably the second most important thing, probably the first most important thing, to be honest, because your personal situation is going to dictate whether you even look at what's going on in the market. If your personal situation is you want a better quality of life and you're miserable where you are, and your finances line up, you can afford to do it. You can afford to move wherever you want to move. You have all the other check boxes. Yes, you should sell. You should absolutely sell. It really does depend. It really does depend. If anybody tells you a straight up answer without asking you questions, go ask somebody else because it's not that easy. If you're in Florida, it's starting the busy season right now. If you're in New England, we're heading into a slower season. So it really does depend. Really, really does depend. Let's see. Norton 5775 says negotiating with sellers on repairs right now. Our home, no showings or visitors during open house Sunday. Oof. Well, good luck with the negotiation on the repairs. And I hope you're staying in tune with what's happening in your local market on your home that with no showings or visitors during open houses. And I've talked about this in my content that I am not overall, from a general perspective, I am not a fan of open houses. I just don't. I think their time has passed. I think it's 2025. That was a thing that they taught us how to do in 1996. Okay, when I got my license, and it was always, yes, it was you open the doors and you have people in and try to sell the house. Come on. It was to appease the seller so the seller can actually see that we're actually doing something, even though it wasn't indicative of actually what we were doing behind the scenes. But it was also to build a business. So all the buyers that came through the front door, if they're not going to buy the house, I was trained, as every other real estate agent is, when you're brand new, those are all potential clients. So if that's the purpose of the open house, how does that benefit the seller? It doesn't. And in 2025, with video and 360 tour and high quality photos and floor plans, you don't need an open house. Your open house is online. It's online. Not to mention, I have an issue with a safety factor. Safety to myself, safety to the seller, because you're allowing strangers to walk through your house. I am not a fearmonger. Somebody commented about one of my videos. I am not a fearmonger. I am a very pragmatic. I'm a realist. This is just fact. It's just fact. This is the world we live in, and why put yourself in danger unnecessarily? Not to mention, do you really want people that potentially can't afford your house to be walking through your house? I know I wouldn't. So, anyways, that's my dialogue on open houses. my TED talk. Let's see. I am. Let's see. You guys got questions? Make sure you put QQQ before those questions. Ruth recently subscribed to the channel. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Let's see. Dithene Gorham. Am I saying that correctly? My house has been on the market for 45 days. I live in Maryland. Maryland's struggling a little bit. So that doesn't sound unreasonable, but also, the same thing I always say, you got to go back to whatever your market data is for that area, even for your town, because that can vary depending on where you live. Believe it or not. Let's see. Chuck says Ohio homes are selling, but Trump's tariffs and superflation have people nervous. Yeah, that honestly, I think that and I haven't checked the consumer confidence report update hasn't been released yet, but the last time it was released, it was not. People were that you could chalk it up to interest rates. You can chalk it up to affordability and housing prices and taxes and HOAs and insurance and all the above. But nobody talks about consumer confidence. If you have all of these things and they're favorable, but you're sitting there and you're like, I just don't, this doesn't feel right. I don't feel confident. I don't know what's happening in the future. It's going to make you pause. I know it does for me. I listen to your gut, listen to your heart. It absolutely impacts. It is, and that's why there's no anyone that says, "Oh, interest rates drop, then the market's going to get better." They're full of it. That's not number one. It's not true. Number two, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. It's a housing market is a very complicated animal. Tiffany, QQQ, we got a cash buyer. Thank you for doing that, QQQ, by the way. We got a cash buyer and quick closing after 2 months. Excellent. Sold for less than expected, but happy for a solid buyer. Well, first off, congratulations. And secondly, when I sit down with my home sellers, and after we put the house on the market, we start to get offers and we're reviewing the offers. Oftentimes, me personally, I'm a visual person. So I put all the offers on a spreadsheet in columns so you can take a step back and you can see, because every offer that comes in, they're going to have a different format and it's on a different sheet and all the information gets confusing. But if it's in a very concise, cut out all the fluff, very concise, side by side, you have a better way to, dissect the information, make a decision. And depending on how your conversation went at the very beginning on why you're selling, typically the reason why is not to just get the most amount of money. If you're an investor, maybe that's the case, but it's not always that way. It's the sum of the parts. It's the sum of the parts. And it depends on whether, how risk adverse you are. It depends on where you're going. If you need assurance that this is going to close because you're buying another property or you're relocating for a job, you want the least amount of hurdles. Mortgage is a hurdle, and it could fall apart. Any contingency in an offer could cause the deal to die. And if you need absolute reassurance, because there's no guarantees in real estate, none. Until you have the cash in hand or the keys in hand, anything could happen. And when I say anything, I had a seller almost pass away. Literally passed away 4 days after closing. It was awful, but it was heartbreaking, but anything can happen. So if you want that, you eliminate the contingencies. Your cash buyer to you has value. A cash buyer to you. Does a cash buyer have value to everyone? No. Does a cash buyer give you the ability to, as a cash buyer, to go in and lowball? No, not in this day and age. Because at the end of the day, if the seller is willing and able to wait for a mortgage, they're going to walk away from the closing with this green cash. Whether it's paid cash or coming from a mortgage company, it doesn't matter. What matters is the process, and if you got what you wanted with a quick closing and you wanted this to be done, that's a win for you, regardless of the sale price. I hope that makes sense. But I'm happy for you, regardless. Let's see. Yes, cash is awesome in the sense that it does, like I said, relieves some of those contingencies. not only getting approved from the mortgage involves, them checking credit, making sure they, keep their job, make sure they don't buy anything. Appraisal is a big thing that people forget about. Um, the whole 9 yards. Uh, Miss Flower says Uber and Lyft drivers will be losing their jobs as well with driverless cars. Honestly, now I love technology. I'm a geek, 100%. My future brother-in-law just got a Tesla and a secondhand Tesla. He was, brought it over, was showing me, and I think the technology is cool and all the things. And he's talking about the driverless car. I would, my anxiety is too high. I would never use it, and I don't think I'm alone. I think it's a cool thing. I just don't think that that's going to, not in this decade. Like this decade, I think it's going to be. I think we're a long ways away from that. So yes, in the future, but I don't see that taking. I don't think that that's going to materialize. Let's see. All right, I wanted to. Sandy says the average days on the market. Fred says Fred is the oh my goodness. It's the St. Louis Federal Reserve, I believe. Oh, my Swiss cheese brain can't think of what the acronym is. Anyways, average days on the market, Fred says 53 days. Okay, 53 days nationally. Bankrate says 51 days. Zillow says 47 to 62. HomeLight says 58. Redfin says 47. All in the same ballpark. So let's just say 50. About 6 weeks. 6 weeks is where we're at. All right. I want to share with you. So getting back to what I was saying earlier about, you have the previous article said there's a north and south divide, with people staying put, they're not relocating, so on and so forth, but it's also happening within states. This article was published, yesterday. This is happening in Florida. So this is from America's worst market to wealth haven. Florida real estate split shows signs of life. And this is just two markets, Naples, Cape Coral. And it says just an hour apart on Florida's Gulf Coast, Cape Coral was branded as America's worst housing market, a place where nearly 8% of homeowners owe more than their property is worth. A lot of that is going to stem from HOAs leveraging against putting liens on properties because of everything that's happening down there with condos is what I would without looking into it deeper, I would say that could potentially is going to be a contributing factor to that. It says, but in nearby Naples, not too far away, brokers are selling for up to 70 million. Condos and developers are rolling out 35 million beachfront villas, drawing billionaires from New York to California. Local real estate leaders say the split reveals not collapse, but a market rebalancing, and proof that Naples has cemented its place in the world's luxury stage. It says in the last 4 months, we've seen pending sales increase far beyond where they were last year. How is this possible when all you hear, and for crying out loud, you just go on YouTube and you just scroll and it's crash, collapse, doomsday, all the things, Florida's sinking into the ocean, whatever not, like Florida's on fire. But yet in certain markets like Naples, the pending sales, people are buying properties. Who I don't have the data for. I don't have the demographic data on exactly who, but it says that in Cape Coral they report 8%. It's more than anywhere else in the country. The 8% of homeowners underwater, and that home prices had declined for 12 of the past 13 months. I want to get to the other section of the article. Where was it? Lost my place. But in any event, Yes, is that this posed a stark contrast to what the area witnessed during the early stages of the pandemic when the median home price increased almost 75%. It says we all saw this article, we scratched our heads a bit, and we thought it was a bit was a little bit sensationalized. It was certainly very incomplete as far as the total picture is concerned. It says from Naples, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, what you found is that housing values increased by approximately 75%. So what happened is that when there was so much demand pulled forward, and then the combination of hurricanes and just the natural relapse as far as buyer demand, what happened was that pullback caused a reduction in overall prices in the market, which is what we know. And a lot of times in different markets, they can fluctuate up and down with the changes in the market, and you can experience things like that where people can get upside down because home values will fluctuate. In the Naples area, you're not seeing that up and down fluid fluctuation in the pricing. So it's interesting to see. I will not say that I know entirely. I brought this up real quick just as an example that it exists, why it exists at this moment, in terms of, what's happening. Is it a hotter vacation spot? Is it a hotter second home spot? Is there industry? Is there, a surge in whatever, investment properties, new construction? I don't know. I need to dig into that a little bit more because it literally just came. I saw this, an hour ago, 2 hours ago, and I want to dig into it. The reason I wanted to bring it up though is it's happening. And Angie, I wanted to point this. I thought of you, believe it or not. This also came back a couple days ago. This is the San Jose spotlight. Now I know San Jose, I believe it's not quite SoCal, but it says the fall housing market looks to rebound. Now California has been struggling. However, this is according to Therese Ferreira of Keller Williams, their Bay Area Estates. It says the market has picked up for my buyers. Many are actively engaging, again, requesting disclosures, asking for detailed information about homes they are considering. The Federal Reserve's recent rate cut has lowered borrowing costs on mortgages, auto loans, personal loans, and even credit cards. This has increased affordability and confidence, bringing more buyers back in the market. Now, I know I harp on the fact that the Fed interest rate does not directly impact mortgage rates. The T-bill, to whatever the treasury bond yield, influences the investor market. That in turn influences the mortgage rates. However, if we're talking affordability, this illustrates that it's not just about mortgages, it's about everything else. Every other area that consumers borrow from, gives them ability to refinance and get the rate on their current loan down. On personal loans, I'll be honest, my oldest daughter, who's getting ready to leave the nest, her first apartment, and we actually having a sit down the other day and talking about her student loans, and I went online, and sure enough, the student loan personal to do a consolidation loan on a personal student loan, the rates have dropped a bit. Now we're going to hold off because I know the Fed will likely, very, very likely drop rates a couple more times going into 26. So I'm going to hold off on any kind of consolidation, but that does affect affordability. And it says this renewed sense of financial optimism is bringing many would-be buyers back into the market. This renewed sense of financial optimism directly connected to consumer confidence. See what we did there? Consumer confidence. His buyers who have been sitting on the sidelines are re-engaging with their home search. And I'm seeing this as well. I'm hearing about this, hearing it from other agents across the country, that things are in certain areas are shifting. So what does that mean to you if you're in an area that you're thinking about buying, you're thinking about selling, and you're hearing conflicting reports? What the message here is, number one, do not make a decision on the headlines. Don't make a decision on the data that you read online, the Zillow data, the Redfin data. This is overall. I'm covering information coast to coast. This is very, very generalized information. Give you guys an insight of what's happening in the country. But don't rely on that for your decision. Please do not. You've got to go and you got to get to the source and find out what the median days, not average. Because if you live in an area that maybe your median sale price is 350,000, 400,000, and you have one oddball sale of 900,000, average throws the numbers all off. Median gives you a better, more reliable number on how it averages, but it averages take into consideration the number of pieces of data, if that makes sense, and it's a more reliable number. It's a more accurate number. So you've got to find out what the median days on market, median sale price, median days to offer in the town that you're looking to purchase, the town you're looking to sell in. Super, super important. I live in Plymouth, but I cover all the touching towns, Wareham and Kingston and Carver, all those areas around Plymouth. And when I pull the data, I'm pulling the data for each town whenever I sit down with a home seller, because it does change from town to town. All right. See what's popping here. What's popping. Let's see. Make sure you guys put Q before the question. Let's see. I don't want to miss you. Scrolling through. Angie says, Jen, do you have open houses? Does it depend on if the seller wants one? Okay, so no. The short answer is no. It really depends. I will put an asterisk and say it does depend. I'm not going to flat out, just like I think broad sweeping statements on anything is dangerous. Now's the time to sell. Now's the time to buy. Nobody's buying. Nobody's selling. Always do this. Always do that. That can be dangerous because there's too many variables. There's way too many variables. So typically I don't do open houses. However, a variable would be the seller works nights and they can't be available. They can't make the house available easily during the day. So that type of a situation, it may make sense to say, okay, Mr. Seller, because we do ask them to leave. We do ask them to, so that the buyers feel more comfortable, buyer agent, all the things. And so what we may do is have a controlled, appointment only open house for 2 hours or 3 hours, clump all the showings together. If you have a tenant, that's absolutely when I would have a controlled open house. Now, you notice I say controlled, that not necessarily a public open house. I'll put it in MLS as showings will happen Thursday between 2 and 4 or 2 and 5. But to open it up to the public, I don't think it's advantageous to the seller. Why? Because I don't know that the people coming through, whether they're qualified or not, and I'm not interested in having unqualified folks coming through the front door. If the seller asks, I compare that. I make my marketing representation. So I meet with a seller. I tour the house. I go back. I do my research. When we meet again, we talk about value, what the current market value is based on the data that I've researched. We also talk about, based on what I saw, who I think our target market is and what the strategy for marketing is. And at that point, if a seller, says, I want to do an open house, and I do not feel, in my expertise, I do not feel it's advantageous to them, I will put my foot down. I will not do it just for the sake of doing it. I can't, I don't think I'm doing the seller any justice. Why? Because even if I sit there and tell the seller that, Mr. Seller, I'll do it because you asked me to, but I have to let you know, I'm not expecting any, I want you to not be disappointed. I want to adjust your expectations, not to be disappointed if we don't have a lot of foot traffic, not to be disappointed if no one makes an offer, not to be disappointed, if it's a big waste of time or somebody, leaves the door unlocked or whatever. It doesn't matter if I say that. In their mind, if they ask for the open house, that means they're listening to someone else and that their expectations are not going to be the expectations that I advise. It's the ones that they have heard. And it ends up in disappointment for them. It just is. So, they're hiring me and my expertise and what I bring to the table and all my transactional experience and the area expertise and all the things. I haven't had anybody push back. And honestly, if I have anybody push back for the wrong reasons, they're probably not a good, we're probably not a good fit for each other. And I tell them that, and on and off I go. So it's got to make sense, Angie. It's got to make sense for the seller. Hope that answers your question. I will, this is the one thing that the industry that drives me bonkers, that the industry has to get back to. The reason why I have a job is to serve the consumer. I'm here to serve you guys. It's not what's in my best interest. It's not what I want. It's not what I shouldn't even be. Is, is there an I in real estate? Is there I in real estate agent? Well, according to the Webster's dictionary, there is not. So that's just my my 2 cents. Tiffany says, QQQ, no appraisal on the cash offer. Yes. And here's the thing. And I've had this happen where I've received an offer and it's a cash offer, and then the buyer's agent writes in special provisions subject to appraisal. Subject to appraisal. I mean, if they want to pay for appraisal out of pocket, but if it's a cash offer, they feel confident and they've done their homework, why do they need an appraisal? That's suspicious. And usually we counter this, we make, if it's the best offer overall in all the different, all the different facets, we usually counter and say, yeah, no, you can do an appraisal after you buy it. That's not, why do you want to do an appraisal? Sometimes there's an ulterior motive. And I did have a situation during a pandemic where it got really, really hairy. And I received an offer, and going through, I'm doing my due diligence as a listing agent. I reach out to the lender. The lender cannot give me any confidential information. Not asking for it. But what I do ask is, has hard copy credit been pulled? In other words, did you get your information just from the buyer telling you that information? Or did you actually check their credit? Did you verify their income? And what are the contingencies for them getting the mortgage that are outside the normal verification of income, credit, things of this nature? And lo and behold, and I actually asked up front, do they have a house to sell? Is there a young buyer, or not younger, but, it struck me as a higher priced home. And it struck me that odd that they weren't putting, they didn't have a huge deposit. And it struck me, it was odd that they didn't have a home sale contingency. And lo and behold, the mortgage lender said yes. They have a mortgage, they have a home sale contingency. They cannot buy that house unless they sell theirs. And it wasn't listed in the offer. You have to make sure your agent vets all that stuff out, because if they had accepted that offer, that would have taken off the market, all the things. It would have been a mess for my seller. Hello. We got Miss Sage. We got all kinds of awesome people in the house here. We got Chuck says, is a cracked or uneven concrete patio a big deal? We are getting our home ready to sell and I don't want to fix it. Well, you know what, Chuck? It really, it's a hard question for me to answer, because without seeing it in person, without seeing the rest of your house, without seeing, how badly it's cracked, and how that compares to what the other house, what the house looks like as a whole, and then the other houses in your market, what they look like. I mean, if you have a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood and, that's the one eyesore, I would probably recommend getting it fixed. But other than that, you know what? It is what it is. I mean, if it's a gaping hole like the San Andreas Fault or something, it's got, yeah, you probably should get it fixed. But other than that, maybe, my gut's telling me to probably not fix it. I think that, buyers these days are starting to come down to earth, and in the sense that there is no perfect house. And that's just the way it is, as a whole. But you got to lean on a good. I know it's a hard answer hard question to answer. I get questions like that all the time, and I wish I could give you more advice on it. Hi, Mr. David Manny, my friend up in Omaha, Nebraska. How you doing there, David? Good to see you. I haven't talked to you in a while. What else we got here? What else? There it is. Fred is the Federal Reserve economic data. There we go. Maintained by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Thank you very much. From AI. Not all AI is bad. I use ChatGPT on a regular basis to answer my questions. It's not such a bad thing if you use it responsibly. Miss H says, when a home sits long on the market and the price cuts just a little, would it be good to go in lower from asking price, hoping for motivating the sale if they are eager? Your thoughts? Okay. This is a tough question to answer. And because of the fact, again, that with the variables, you got to know what the market value is on the property before making an offer. Period. What is the value? Now, the value is what a buyer is willing to pay. So the value may be your value. Don't know that, but have an understanding of where it sits, especially if you've seen price changes. Where does it sit compared? And this is where having a good buyer agent that has experiential knowledge that can interpret the data to say, okay, well, the market value, it's priced at 500, and the market value is actually saying that it should be 490. Even if they've had a price drop, I'd go in lower. They may not take it. When you make an offer that's below asking, you have to have the mindset that the sellers, the seller doesn't have to do anything. The sellers can remain unreasonable, which means you've got to be patient and try not to get too attached to the house. You take a step back and just, okay, well, come back and wait a couple weeks and watch it like a hawk and then put another offer in. If 490 is what it's worth to you. If it's worth it to you. If you see the house, it's at 500, you're like, I really would like to offer lower, but I don't want to lose the house because I've been looking for 6 months. And this checks all the boxes in more ways than one. Maybe you go in at 490 if they're at 500, and you notice I didn't give you a percentage. Do not. There is no standard percentage. I hear this from other folks, offer 2%, 5%. No, there's no standard percentage because it varies depending on where the house is being valued at compared to what the actual value is. If you have a seller who's priced the house slightly above what the market value is, going in at 5%, they're gonna be insulted. If it's actually priced 5% over what the market value is, then go in 5% under. But there is no set percentage because the market, there's no set way that home sellers, they price it based on their advice from their agent, all the things, lots of different reasons, but it's not a set percentage. But if you love the house, you can come in lower, and you can always go back and meet them at where they're at. If you're like, you know what, I really don't want to pay 500, but I will because I don't want to lose the house, but I want to see if I can get lower, then try. If it's, as long as you're not going to potentially lose it to another buyer, absolutely. You can always make a second offer and come up and not lose the house. But every situation is different. So I don't like to give straight up advice across the board because I think it's hard to say that this is what should. There's nothing that applies to every situation. Why? Because there are humans involved. And humans mess things up. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. I think my fall allergies are kicking in. Jen, in this market, how many cash buyers have you seen purchasing homes now? Do you see more or less in these times? I think I see less. I am seeing larger down payments. I'm seeing um, boomer parents helping younger children my age a little bit, helping their kids, but boomers passing away and inheritance, that helps younger children buy their first house. Um, I think we're seeing less because during pandemic, people were refinancing. They were taking cash out of their house, buy another house, then sell their house. Um, there was definitely more cash flowing. Here's the thing: the cash buyers are not selling right now. They were selling during pandemic, but they're not selling now. And those are the ones that usually flock down to the south. The ones that we were talking about. I was talking about at the very beginning. But a lot of them are the boomers, the ones that have built up equity, lots of equity, paid off their mortgage, no mortgages. They sell their house. They've got a bucket full of money, and they go in and buy a starter home because they want to downsize. They're not buying right now. They're pulling back. They're not buying entirely. I shouldn't say they're not buying at all, but the numbers have decreased. So the money is out there, but because of the consumer confidence, people are holding on to it tighter. And I'll be honest, I 100% am shoring up. I am very risk adverse. So I am making sure that I shore up my reserves because, heading into the holidays, heading into the winter, and everything that's happening, in the economy right now, I don't know what's happening, what's going to happen, in the next 6 months to a year. So I want to make sure that I'm insulated, as much as I can be, because I'm very risk adverse. I would advise the same for you if you are as well. Let's see. Fact dwellers. Can we tell our agent we would prefer no open houses? Yes. Yes. Uh, I get that all the time when you guys reach out for requesting an agent, one of my referral partners, and you'll put right in, the questionnaire that I send you. We don't want open houses. And honestly, my referral partners, the 20% agents understand that open houses, usually, depending on the situation, of course, but in most areas, open houses in 2025 are a waste of time, and they very much don't fight it. So yeah, just tell them that there's no open houses. Better yet, if the agent pushes back, ask them why. Ask them why they want an open house. Have them explain it to you. I think that there's this surface level that we've got for some reason right now, and everything across all forms of communication and questions. It's always like, do you want this? No. Well, why not? Blah, blah, blah. Friction. It's like, well, instead of saying, well, do you want this? No. Well, tell me why. Tell me why, or do you want an open house? No, but like, why would you want me to have an open house? What value would that bring to me as a home seller? Try that. Oh, excuse me. Try not to cough in the mic here. I'm trying to blow out your earballs, your ear canal, your earballs. I'm losing it. Anybody concur? Is French your favorite music artist? Actually, no. I'll be honest. In the '80s, I was a headbanger. White Snake, AC/DC all the way. I wasn't into the pop stuff, and I got into like the Depeche Mode stuff. I like the good old what's the word I'm looking for? The alternative. I like alternative music, but nowadays I listen to just about everything. I like jazz. I think it all depends on the mood, but not so much the pop stuff, the Taylor Swift stuff. For inquiring minds. All right, I'm just scrolling down to see if I can see QQQ. Excuse me. Good Lord. I drink my tea here. This is a good question. What is best? A big price reduction or several small ones? I am a fan of a big price reduction and wait. Here's the reason. You have a $500,000 house. I'm a buyer and I'm looking at, a $500,000 house, $500,000. Is $5,000 going to change my mind? No. That would be like me going to the supermarket and seeing bread, $3. It's on sale for $2.95. Think about that. That's the same impact. When you have small price reductions, and I've seen this, lived it, been in the market a long time. What an agent will do is it's not to, the price reduction itself is not to make it more affordable, make it more appealing. It's just to reintroduce it, to bring it from active inventory up to price changed inventory. Kind of catch somebody's and you know what? Back in the day that worked. Not now. Not now. It doesn't. It doesn't help bring, put it in the forefront, of the attention. And the reason is because back in the day, if a home was reduced in price, they didn't have the data. It wasn't, consumers didn't see the data and they'd say, oh, they only dropped at 5,000. They see price drop and they get all excited. Oh, it's on sale. It's on sale. But you don't know what the original price was because unless you've been following it super, super close, the whole idea is to attract more eyeballs. So they wouldn't know. Now they know. And they look at it and they go, are you serious? Buyers are so highly, highly educated. Why? Because they have the data. They have the data. Real estate agents are not the gatekeeper of the data anymore. So they see it and they go, it's $5,000. What a waste of time. The seller's playing games. I think it's a waste of time. I would rather, say if it's a $500,000 house, you do a $5,000 price reduction, wait, and do a 10 or 15 or 20, whatever makes more sense. You know, you have to time it with the market. You have to look at what is happening in the market. More importantly, I would say that instead of when you're doing a price reduction, the price reduction should be based on what your competition is doing, period. So if you put on the market at 500, it's not selling, then you're off base with what is happening in your market, which means you got to go back to, instead of just having your agent beat you over the head for a reduction in price, which happens all the time with these darn 80% agents, okay? That is a cop out. It's a cop out. What should be happening is they need to go back to the data. AKA, they need to prove and show their value to you that you're paying big money for them. They got to show you their value. Their value is being able to research the data, interpreting the data, find out what's going on in the market. And you might find out that, geez, you know what? I have 2 sold properties that sold for $485. We need to be at or below $485. And me personally, I like to undercut the competition all day long. If a property that's identical to my seller's house is at $485, I'm going to recommend we list at $480. Why? Because that's going to bring in more buyers. It's going to bring in more foot traffic. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to get more offers. More offers means cha-ching, cha-ching. Historically, the value goes up. The sale price goes up. So consider that. Hope that gives you something to chew on. Let's see. Alex says maybe comment on earnest money. It seems difficult to enforce. What is your question exactly on earnest money, Alex? I mean, earnest money would be when you make an offer, it's like a security deposit on an apartment. The offer accompanied with a deposit shows the seller that you're serious. Depending on what, whether your state is a 1-part state, 2-part state, whether it's an offer and a purchase and sale like it is in Massachusetts, whether you're in New Hampshire and it's a 1-part state where you're signing a purchase agreement 10 pages long right out of the get-go. I think New Jersey's the same way. But typically that total deposit could be 2, 3, or 5% of the purchase price. That money is security deposit for the seller. in case you flake. And I've had people flake. I remember I was green, couple years, 2, 3, 4 years in the business. And this doctor from local hospital wanted to buy a house. And little did I know, doctor, yeah. And he walked away after been in a contract for a couple weeks. And he just said, you know what, I don't want to buy anymore. He had like a $30,000 deposit on the house. He walked away. Guess what? The seller kept the 30 grand. The doctor was, okay, fine, whatever. Okay. Needless to say, I fired myself. I said, you got to find another agent. That security deposit made up for the fact that the seller took the house off the market in good faith. The buyer represents that they have the ability to buy the house. They have the finances to buy the house. They will buy the house. If you accept their offer, they're going to follow through on the contract. The security deposit ensures that. If they decide on the day before closing, I'm gonna, you know what? I found another house down the street I like better. I don't want to buy this anymore. Well, now the seller has just been inconvenienced and they've just taken their house off the market for a month, 6 weeks, waiting for you. They need to be compensated. That's what the escrow, that's what the security deposit, that's what the earnest money does. If you have a follow-up to that, Alex, if you need more information on that, like if that didn't explain what your question was, let me know. Let's see. This age says, let's see, what does it say about the people selling their home when you go to see it? They're sitting in the living room watching who comes into the home. Is that normal? Is that normal? Your thoughts? They're sitting in the living room. Oh God, that stuff drives me crazy. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about it. That is, in my opinion, that is an 80%, what I would absolutely call an 80% real estate agent not advising their home seller. If the home seller is unable to leave, they're sick, they're disabled, whatever, they have pets that are going to attack you, whatever the reason is, then you make accommodations for that. And the accommodations are, just leave and take the pets with you. Sometimes it's not possible. So what do? You gotta get creative. You gotta get creative. Why? You have to get creative to still allow these buyers to come in and feel welcome, but also make sure that you take care of those pets or whatever not. There's got to be some creativity. Just to walk in and see the seller sitting there in the living room, and I walked in years, and this is probably over 20 years ago. I remember walking into a house, and the seller was sleeping in a bed in the bedroom. I mean, we had to schedule a showing and all the things, and we walk in with the buyers and we're chatting and blah 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 blah. We walk in and we're like, oh well, this lump, and then the lump on the bed moved. I was like, what the heck? I was really upset. A seller's agent, yeah, listing agent, forget it. Crazy. All right, I wanted to get to the other article. That the second thing that I want to talk to you about is the Zillow forecast being revised. And this just dropped 2 days ago. Zillow just revised its home price forecast again for over 400 housing markets. And again, this link will be in the description so that you can hover over the chart and see in your particular area what the forecast number is. It says, heading into 2025, Zillow's 12-month forecast for U.S. home prices was an increase of 2.6%. However, many housing markets across the country softened faster than expected, prompting Zillow to issue several downward revisions. By April 25, Zillow had cut its 12-month national home price outlook to a depreciation of 1.7%. However, in recent months, Zillow has stopped issuing downward revisions, and in August, Zillow revised its 12-month outlook to 0.4% appreciation and is now revising that outlook to an appreciation of a positive 1.2%. Karen Ning, a senior economist at Zillow, says sellers took a step back from the housing market in August in response to slow demand from cash-strapped home shoppers. Again, The shoppers that are buying, maybe cash strapped, the ones that have the cash aren't buying right now. Just to be clear, buyers still in the market have plenty of opportunity, especially in inventory rich environments, but competitive momentum that has been swinging fast in buyers' favor in recent months is showing signs of stopping nationwide. High housing costs continue to sideline prospective buyers, making it easier for those still in the hunt. Zillow's market heat index shows the market imbalance between buyers and sellers nationwide, which would explain who asked me earlier about the 75 days. That right there tells you that there is some balance across the country, average across the country, between the buyers and the sellers, with less competition among buyers than in August since 2018. Homes are lingering longer before finding a buyer as well. The median time on market for a sold home is 27 days, a full week longer than last year and 1 day longer than pre-pandemic norms. So here's the forecast for metro level home price change between August last year, or August this year, and August next year. And if 0% is, we're in the middle of, kind of just kind of hanging out in the middle, just kind of, staying status quo. The red, depreciation, aiming towards the blue is appreciation. And I'm seeing a lot of blue. I'm seeing a lot of blue. Yes, there are. You see down in Florida, you'll see in Florida, Orlando is expecting a 0.5% increase. Miami. Miami has been one of the hardest hit cities in the country as far as depreciation, as far as the market is concerned. And the 12-month forecast is a positive 1.5% in home values. There are areas, and now coincidentally, these are going to be the areas west coast of Florida, where we have massive natural disasters. We're just getting started with hurricane season. We'll see what happens. Pray that Floridians, get by without too much carnage. But there are a few, Cape Coral and Punta Gorda, Northport, those areas. But then right to the north, just like that article was talking about, Tampa, Florida is positive. Right to the south, Naples, positive. We've got all these different areas, and it stretches all over the country. We do have pockets, New Orleans, Austin, but overall, the trend is right now based on today. Now, could it change? Of course, it could change. It's going to depend on all the different factors I talked about earlier. It says, but among the 300 largest U.S. metro area housing markets, Zillow expects that the biggest home price increase between this year and next year is going to happen in these markets: Atlantic City, New Jersey. We've got Torrington, Connecticut, all the way down. You can check out this list: Kingston, New York; Concord, New Hampshire; Knoxville, Tennessee; Hartford, Connecticut. Hartford's been in a rebuilding stage. New Haven, Connecticut. New Jersey again, all the way down, even Youngstown, Ohio. The 300, it says Zillow expects biggest home price decline in these areas. Louisiana is not faring well. Texas, specifically Beaumont, Texas. Louisiana, Odessa, Texas. Isn't Odessa where Friday Night Lights was filmed? I'm pretty sure. I know that, or is it where the story originates from because it was filmed in Pflugerville? Somebody can tell me if that's correct or not. San Francisco, Santa Rosa. So, getting back to, that article about, the San Jose market showing some rebounding, it's within the same state, you're gonna have different results. Chico, California, and then you've got a few more in Texas. So it illustrates, I think the moral of the story here is it absolutely is going to vary. Now, I'm going to jump over to be respectful of time and all the things. I'll make sure we have enough time for this. And let me just get, Leslie, QQQ. My fear is a buyer getting cold feet at the last minute. Why would my agent say I'm not entitled to the earnest deposit in that case? So that wouldn't make sense unless they're covered by a contingency. So if they have a mortgage contingency and the mortgage contingency, they're something happened with their FICO score or their job or their they got laid off or something of that nature. But just getting cold feet, say after, in Massachusetts, we have like a 10 to 14 day window at the very beginning of the transaction where we do home inspection and we do purchase and sale agreement. And during that window, yes, we have a binding agreement, but the window is open for virtually anything. The buyer could go through, have a home inspection, and just be uncomfortable with the repairs. Every home needs repairs. Every home needs repairs. And it's easy enough to say that, if they have cold feet because, early on in the transaction, and they say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with these repairs, then the reason why it's a contingency, why it's a home inspection contingency, is because the offer is contingent on a successful, satisfactory home inspection. And if it's not, they get that deposit back. But if they get cold feet 30 days in, 2 weeks, a week before closing, no, you are absolutely entitled to that earnest money. Suspiciously, I may be off base here, but I wonder if that agent is just trying to keep you engaged for some reason. I don't, and wants to keep it out of arbitration, because the other side, the other thing they want to take into consideration, you got to look at the big picture. If a buyer walks and the buyer refuses to, even though you're entitled to that money, and the buyer says, the buyer's like, no, I don't authorize you to keep the money, because even though this is super, super important. This is so important. Escrow money, when it is held in, escrow money in itself is held in an escrow account by a real estate agency, a third party. When my office holds escrow money, it would be a violation of escrow agreement. We cannot release it to any party unless we have a signed agreement by both parties. Even if the buyer is at fault, even if the seller is at fault, I still need a document saying both parties agree the escrow funds go to the buyer or the seller. Doesn't, however it goes. They have to agree. If you have a stubborn buyer, or a stubborn seller, I should say, and the seller's digging their heels in and says, no, I absolutely am entitled, I am not releasing that money. You have to take a step back and think of what the ramifications are. Arbitration takes weeks, months. It's going to come off the market. You can't sell it to anyone else until you complete that contract, until you finalize and you are free from that contract. You have to make that contract null and void, which requires both signatures. You cannot sell it to someone else, which means you're not selling your house, potentially, for a while. And it's going to cost you money in court fees. So you may be entitled to the money. The question is what are you willing to give up to chase after it? And that stinks. But in the long run, even though whatever the situation is, you may decide, you know what, the best thing for me right now is to just bite the bullet. It is what it is. It stinks. It's awful. Those people are scumbags. But I need to sell this house. And the best business decision, guys. This is a business transaction. I had a conversation with my home seller about this, yesterday. This is a business decision. Hard when you're emotionally involved, but it's a business transaction. You have to do what's right for you based on what your goals are and why you're selling in the first place. I hope that helps. Hope that helps you. Yes, Skate says, have you ever had a seller back out of a signed purchase and sale contract? Yes. I can count on one hand. I think it's happened. Oh, sorry. Itchy nose. Either somebody's talking about me or it's allergies. Because it's like, was it itchy nose or itchy ears? I don't remember. One of the two. I think it's itchy nose. Old wives' tale, I guess. My grandmother used to say, if your nose is itchy, somebody's talking about you. But yeah, I mean, have they backed out? Because the offer in Massachusetts clearly states it's subject to a mutually agreed upon purchase and sale agreement. And if the two parties can't come to an agreement, the sellers may throw in the towel and say, I'm done. I don't want to, I don't want to sell these people anymore. Can they do that? It's happened. Does it happen often? No. It does not, because of the fact that I try my best to vet out the buyer before we even get started, before the seller signs. Okay. Pending government shutdown. What does it mean to you guys? What does it mean to you guys if you're in the throes of buying and selling? Does it upset the apple cart? Maybe not. This came from Redfin. It says government shutdown could impact mortgage processing in the DC housing market. It says a federal government shutdown next Wednesday seems increasingly likely. So this was on September 26th, which was Friday. And as of the articles that I read today, it's looking very probable that it's going to happen tomorrow. For how long, we don't know. It says the impact on the housing market would be fairly limited. Don't let fear mongering get you on this stuff. It says though potentially larger in the Washington D.C. area, especially if the shutdown coincides with a reduction in force. It says Congress has not passed any appropriations bills this year, so a government shutdown would affect all departments that rely on discretionary funding, and those operations are not deemed essential. Historically, impacted employees are furloughed and then receive back pay when the government reopens. However, the Office of Management and Budget instructed agencies this week to start creating reduction in force RIF plans for any programs that would be affected by the shutdown and which are not consistent with the White House priorities. It is unclear whether the courts would uphold these layoffs should they occur. The impact to the housing market has been limited during previous government shutdowns. Honestly, I think we have, it's like a blip. It's that's happening, but when boots on the ground, my home buyers and home sellers, the housing market wheel just keeps going. The engine just keeps going. It says in this instance we would have expect a similar outcome, but the DC area housing market could see a bigger impact if many federal workers were laid off rather than furloughed. So in the DC area, it says most federal workers are located in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Any effect on the housing market via reduced demand from temporary furloughs would be minimal, especially if the shutdown is short. However, a large reduction in RIF reduction in force would create the same effects as the Doge cuts earlier this year, with less demand and more supply. Now, if you're not in the DC area, it still could affect you. It says delays and frictions in the sale process. Home buyers seeking federally backed mortgages, FHA, VA loans, may experience some application delays. This is because FHA loans are secured through HUD and VA loans through the Department of Veteran Affairs, both of which may be effective. Home buyers in flood-prone regions such as Florida and Louisiana, who rely on government-backed flood insurance, could face delays in their home purchases. And this is due to a potential halt in funding for the National Flood Insurance Program, and then any applications that are reliant on tax return transcripts. This is a huge deal, actually, guys. I remember, oh gosh, when the great financial crisis happened, and actually there was a couple government shutdowns, and I remember, actually, now that I'm reading this, I remember this happening. Any mortgage applications that are reliant on tax return transcripts or income verification from the IRS could also be delayed. If your lender requires a tax return transcript, or you needed to, say you didn't have a copy of your tax return and you had to request one, it happened. It took weeks, and during the mortgage process and mortgage approval process is typically 30 days. It was now doubling that time frame or longer. And the problem is with the government shutdown, we didn't know, there was nobody, we couldn't get an answer on where. The lender would just say it's in process. We can't do anything. We just have to wait. It was a big question mark. It could be sticky. So it's just, does that mean you shouldn't buy? Does it mean you should say no? No, but you've got to be just aware that if you're using these types of federal mortgages, federally backed mortgages, it is something that you could potentially run into. So it goes on to say that, the financial market impact, the markets generally, shrug off the government shutdowns as they follow a very predictable playbook. Unusually long shutdown or any RFs that upend those expectations, though markets may view layoffs are likely to be overturned by the courts. And if government statistical agencies are affected and critical data releases are delayed, like jobs reports, labor markets, and so forth, markets could become more volatile. Why? Because investors rely on that data to make their expectations, to make their decisions, their impact known, or what their expectations are on that affect mortgage rates. So we're going to be watching it carefully, guys. It's not doomsday by any sense of the imagination, but one thing I've learned over the past 6 months, 9 months, prepare for the unexpected. Let's see. Let's see. I'm sure I'm getting to your questions here. Oh, hey now. Bleed Green 2215.
Super chat.
Thank you so much for that. It says, I close the 24th with government shutdown. Will I still be able to close? It depends if you're, are you buying or selling? If you're buying, I guess one half does or another. It's going to depend on where the mortgage lender is in the process. You're closing on the 24th, given that you still got about 3 weeks left in the process, there probably is not a mortgage approval potentially yet, which means they're still going through the verification process on the mortgage process. Yes, it potentially could. The thing I would do is you're going to find out if you're the buyer, get talk to your lender. If you're the seller, have your listing agent talk to the lender. Talk to the buyer's agent. I like talking to the lender directly, to be perfectly honest, because you can have a conversation. A listing agent can have a conversation with a lender that doesn't involve divulging, confidential information, but get that but get an understanding and an update on whether this particular borrower is in that category where they may be affected. So yeah, you could, but you can make some, you can do some things that will, manage your expectations. Excuse me. Let's see. Charlton, good to see you. Why is new construction builders shutting down? Are they afraid of going under? Well, new construction, because a lot of builders are building, a lot of them have, they're building, what's the word I'm looking for? Not expectation, speculative. If there's any speculative building, a lot of them are pulling back on that speculative building because of the uncertainty in the economy. Building without having a buyer in place, they're pulling back. A lot of them are pulling back to do that. But the other part of it is the cost, the tariffs, the cost of labor with what's happening. The labor market is all over the place. The available labor, the available jobs, that they can afford to hire, the cost of materials. It is, it all affects new construction. 110%. Let's see. Okay. Oh, Mary says, are those percentages year over year, Jen? You know what? Oh my gosh, I am coughing like I so apologize, guys. Got a real scratchy throat tonight. I don't have timestamps on my end with this chat, so I don't know which percentages you're referring to on the year over year. But if you can chime in on the chat, that would be great. I'm gonna get to the poll in a second. Just made a fresh loaf of bread yesterday. Well, you know what? MHO's always cooking something. Go in the grocery store. If you're in Massachusetts, if you're in my area, let me know. I'll give you a list. I'd love some fresh baked bread. Let's see. Oh gosh, my realtor once walked into a showing and the owner was in the shower. I've had colleagues that have run into that. It is horrendous. Oh, thank you very much. My kids gave me this for Christmas several years ago. Wonder Woman. Just like I told you guys about the plumbing. Like to do the things that I can do, push myself. Try new things, do things that are out of the norm. All right. Let's see. Okay. I think if you know what, if I skipped your question, drop it in the chat again. I apologize if I did. I'm gonna get to the chat, to the poll. All right. Let's see where you guys are at with the poll. Which housing market are you seeing in your area? So we've got we've got a balanced market, only 20% of you. We've got buyer's market with a high inventory, 23% of you. Not sure, 27%, and a seller's market, low inventory, 31%. Interesting. Seller's market, 31%, buyer's market, 23%. So all those headlines, you guys aren't seeing all the headlines that say the market's going crashing down, dropping 75% values, whatever craziness, home sellers giving away properties. I feel like that's next in the headlines. It's not true. Imagine that. Oh my goodness, guys. Hey, listen, I think that's gonna do it. I think that's gonna do it for tonight. And I think I got to all the things that I wanted to get to this evening. But you know what? Hold a couple more questions real quick before I sign off. Chuck says, "Am I wrong about homes with AOH? I hate HOAs. HOAs are not for everybody. I think HOAs have a place. I think some HOAs are not all HOAs are bad. Not all HOAs are bad. I know that a lot of people out there say, all it has to do with the sweeping, statements. All HOAs are bad. All this are bad. No, you guys got to do your homework. You got to do your homework. I am not necessarily a fan of HOAs, but you know what? Someday I'm going to get to a point where even though I do all the stuff myself, I do all my own landscaping, I do all my own housework, all the things, someday I'm not going to want to do it. Someday I'm hoping I'm buying a house on a golf course and I'm out golfing instead of in my yard mowing the lawn. Have the HOA do that. But you better believe I'm going to research the heck out of that HOA so I know exactly what I'm buying into. 100%. You got to do your homework. Mary says, I meant the cities that showed up plus or minus percentages, prices up, prices down. Yeah, I think that the graphic, and I guess, and again, all these are going to be in the, all these articles I'm going to post in the description. So you can go back and it'll always say if it's year over year, month over month, where the data references. And Santa says, what? The media lies? Yeah, imagine that. You know what? There's this. It's cat, the dogs pigs are flying, all the things. Imagine that. Imagine that the media doesn't tell the whole truth. Anyhow, guys, it's been a pleasure. I love hanging out with you guys Tuesday nights, and you know what? I'll be back. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. 6 p.m. Eastern, same bat time, same bat channel. And you know what? As always, I always say, you know what? Be good, be kind, be kind. Please try to exercise some kindness, some understanding. And you know what? If you if you don't see eye to eye with someone, if you disagree with with someone's statement, instead of jumping to conclusions, seek to understand. Ask questions. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to be on the same page, but at least you'll understand. If we can just understand each other instead of fighting with each other, you know what? We have common ground. We all bleed red, and we all need more green. Money. We all need lower prices so that we can have the money to buy the things and all this stuff. We all want the same thing, at the end of the day. So let's just remember that. Be kind, be good, be safe, and have a great week. Take it easy. Ciao.